So today we'll have some fun with the Stylophone Gen X1 synthesizer and VCV Rack, processing it in all sorts of ways, exploring some sound design ideas. Of course, this will work with other synthesizers, this will work with other instruments that you can process inside of VCV Rack. And actually, for those of you who don't have any external gear, or just as a small bonus, I built a setup very similar to the Stylophone Gen X1 in VCV Rack, of course, with the patch master interface. More on this later in the video, but let's start granulizing this little synthesizer. So there are a few options in VCV Rack for granular synthesis. I really like Supercell. We will have a look at another option soon enough. So there is Supercell from Grayscale, which is also available in hardware, also as the microcell version. This is basically a clouds clone, a mutable instruments clouds clone, but it adds lots and lots of functionality. So if I switch the cameras again, I can just connect the Stylophone to the Supercell, right? And here I can play this lovely little synthesizer with this stylus, I guess, this pen. Right, and we have a filter. Right, there is delay, there is a tremolo, not tremolo, vibrato, right, all sorts of different things. I can also add some pulse width modulation. Right, so let's really start. This is set, the Supercell is set to granular mode. Maybe I will switch to this here so we can see everything. Right, it's set to granular mode, which means that if I turn on the density, it will turn on the density of the grains. Right, maybe I will take the input a bit down. Right, so now basically I can change the shape of the grains to be a bit more smeared. Right, I can change the size of the grains, and actually I can also add internal modulation with the size. Let me again go to this. With the size attenuverter, I can add random modulation, internal random modulation, right, also for the position, so where they will start scanning the grains. So now if you do something like this, right, and now maybe I can take it down a bit. I can add some space, of course, which is reverb. Maybe I will also change this. Actually, if we go back here, I can change the time of the buffer basically to 4 seconds, which means that also the quality will be a bit more grainy and less precise. Let's see. Can also add an envelope for the filter, so maybe a bit more of a tech. Right, I can add also panning modulation, some feedback. Right, maybe also, what else can we do here? Maybe a bit more density, maybe the size take a bit down. Right, and now we can also freeze the buffer, so I can play a few notes and then freeze the buffer, and it will basically keep those notes, this sound in the buffer, and will continue granulizing it. Right, so now I'm not playing anything anymore. Right, and still we have everything here granulized. Right, and thanks to the position modulation, it will also scan through this buffer. Bit more reverb. Right, something like this. So now we have this nice and granularized. Right, another option that I have here, this is how I can take out because the buffer will be saved basically, right? So now another option I have here is the cheese grater from Path Set. Now this is a commercial module, but if you are into granular synthesis, this whole collection from Path Set is all about granular synthesis, and it's worth it. It's really worth it. So in this case, if I connect again my Stylophone here, right, we have all sorts of different options. So let's see, let's go back here. Right now, here we need to sample, we need to record it. So I'm just going to do this. Just 3 notes. Right, maybe I can also add an octave down here. And maybe just a bit of vibrato. Let's see this now. Right, and again, also here I can change the consistency, so basically the density, the grain size. I can change the frequency, so I can take it maybe an octave down. If I right click the frequency knob and I enter divide by 2, it will divide it by 2, which will be basically an octave down. In this case, it's not such a good effect. Right, we can add all sorts of different. We can also change the length of this buffer. Right, and the starting point. Right, so this I can use with modulation, for example, from caudal. Right, maybe here just a bit. Speed of playback. Add some reverb here with plateau. Now let's have a look at some distortion. Here I have the distortion from Surge. Again, I have the synthesizer connected to it. It can work again with other synthesizers as well, with other instruments, of course. So let's have a listen. I have here a sort of simple sound. Right. Some vibrato. So let's start adding some drive. Right now, of course, since this is just basically a simple, not a simple, but it's not a complex voice, but we have the built-in delay here that if we send this with the delay to the distortion, we will get quite interesting results, I'm sure of it. So let's have a listen to this first of all without so much distortion. Right? Already without so much distortion. I'm going to add also there are buttons here, one for pulse width modulation, one for an octave down, and one for 2 octaves down. So I'm going to add this as well. Oh yes, with the delay, maybe a bit more delay, let's see. Maybe a bit of resonance. And now I can start adding some more drive. Of course, we can add some reverb. Here I have the patch master just controlling the reverb amount. So let's add a bit, something like this, let's say. Oh, yes, indeed. Oh man, yes, this is a nice distortion. Let's move on. I have here another distortion module. This one is Flame from Volt. Now this is also a commercial module, but again, all of the Volt modules are worth it. And there are other interesting modules in this commercial collection, right? So I will send again the synthesizer into it, and let's have a listen. I will just leave it for now. This is the dry signal for now with the delay on. Oh yeah. Again with some reverb. Oh, listen to this hiss. This is quite nice. There are also different modes here. So let's go with, let's say, bite, and let's say mid, and let's go with puff. Oh yeah. Maybe a bit more feedback on the delay. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Now, of course, we can also experiment with wave folding. So this is a hero or a thero from Instruo. Right, so let's have a listen to this. Again, with the delay still on. Maybe different delay times, a bit longer. Oh man. Again, reverb is life. So as we've seen, we have here already a built-in delay, but there are also a few interesting delay modules and delay-based modules in VCV Rack, like Tap Dancer from Flag. So here I have again the stylus connected to it. So if I play now, the delay here is off. Maybe I will take the sub oscillators out for a second. Right, so now the delay is coming only from Tap Dancer. Right, and what we have here on Tap Dancer, for example, if I go back here, we have the drive control, so we can add drive to the incoming signal. Right, and we can add also ducking to the delay itself, right? So the dry signal will basically take the amplitude of the delay down, which gives it a bit more space. So if I add it here and here, maybe a bit more feedback. Right, let's have a listen to this. Right, so this is quite an interesting delay to play with. There is also built-in modulation. And what else do I have here? Let's see. I have here also the combulator from Surge, which is a comb filter, which is basically a comb filter is also a delay. Basically, it's based on a delay. Right, so if I do something like this, let's see. Right, there are also some presets here. This is the sparkle one. Let's go with nice sand. I hope you can hear this. Right, let's change, add some feedback, and maybe change the panning. Right, and I can also change the frequency. So now it really sounds more like a delay. Nice and crunchy. Right, the next one that I have here is a chorus, also from Flag, again, delay-based effect. Right, so let's have this with some chorus. Also here we have drive. Let's see. I will take the vibrato down and maybe have some more decay on the filter envelope, more attack. Right, and now let's start adding, let's go mix all the way up actually. Right, add some drive. Right, I can also change the delay time, maybe even bigger, and add some more modulation, internal modulation. Very nice. What happens when I turn on the delay now? So the chorus is also affecting the delay signal. Oh, nice and crunchy with all the drive. Oh man. Very nice. So this was the chorus, and something I really like doing with delays. The Chronoglobe 2 is perfect for this. It's available also in hardware. Is looping basically with the delay. So if I have longer delay times and the feedback, oh, let me show you this here. So longer delay times and the feedback all the way at 100%, basically the delay will never fade out and the sound will continue looping. So let's have a listen to this. Let's see. Right? Another thing we can experiment with external instruments and external synthesizers is pitch following and envelope following. Right here I have Tree Monster from Surge, which will do a few things. First of all, it will detect and follow the pitch and the envelope of, in this case, the stylus synthesizer. But it will also generate a sine wave that we can then use to multiply or to ring modulate the original sound. Right, so if now I play the stylus, maybe I will add some. This will work, of course, best with monophonic instruments. Right, so now if I take the mix all the way up, we will hear only the sine wave generated by Tree Monster. Right, this is not the synthesizer anymore, this is not the stylophone, this is now just Tree Monster. If I add some vibrato, it will follow it as well, which is quite cool. Right, so now if I bring the mix a bit down, we will hear both. And I can, for example, take the sine wave an octave down, right? Minus 12 semitones. This will be an octave down. Maybe I will take the pulse width modulation out for now from the stylophone. And now I can ring modulate both of them, right? There's the ring modulation. Basically, it will ring modulate this sine wave and the original sound. So let's bring this to about somewhere here, let's say. Right? And if I just a bit detune the pitch of this sine wave, I get a bit more texture. Right, so like this we can enhance the sound a bit, but what we can also do, we can also use this Tree Monster to control other voices in VCV Rack without even listening to the stylophone. So here, if I go to this window here, right, we have the Tree Monster and we have a volt per octave output and an envelope output that will basically output the pitch and the envelope, in this case, of the stylophone, right? So the output of Tree Monster is not going anywhere. All we will hear is the external voice or the voice I have here, the FM operator, playing according to the pitch and according to the envelope, to the amplitude envelope of the stylophone. So now if I play this, this is not the stylophone. You don't hear the stylophone, you hear only the FM operator in this case. Right, and there is also this strip here that I can also play the notes and add even more vibrato. And here I have a bigger setup. So I have once the Stylophone going to tree monster, again, just to get the pitch and the amplitude envelope, right? This is driving the modern VCO and the sine VCO from Surge. I'm mixing them with the mixer with another Stylophone, right? So the Stylophone will also be a part of the sound. So instead of having just a Stylophone, we have 3 oscillators now, the Stylophone, the sine VCO, and the modern VCO, all following the same pitch and amplitude envelope. And this is going to a filter. Another thing you can experiment with is comparators, right? So if you use a comparator, for example, to compare the amplitude envelope of, in this case, the Stylophone, every time the Stylophone plays, goes above a certain level, the amplitude of the Stylophone goes above a certain level, we have here also an envelope that will open the filter cutoff. So again, I'm using the Stylophone, the amplitude, right, of the Stylophone from tree monster to the comparator, and I have it set to 0.2 volt. So every time it goes above this amplitude, right, the envelope will open the filter, right? So this is also something we can experiment with, and the sound we get eventually is this. Right, we have 3 voices in this case. Let's add also here the octave down and the pulse width modulation. Let's see how Tree Monster can handle this. Quite nicely, I would say. Right, so again, I'm using the pitch and the amplitude envelope from the Stylophone to drive the oscillators in VCV Rack with the help of Tree Monster, following the pitch, following the amplitude envelope. So now let me show you the patch I built in VCV Rack, very similar to the Stylophone. There are a few small enhancements that I did. So first of all, it's stereo, but it's great to experiment with it if you don't have the Stylophone, if you don't have an external synthesizer that you want to process in VCV Rack, or just if you want to experiment with a minimal setup and see all the different sounds you can come up with. Of course, there will be a link in the description where you can download this. I used only free available modules, so all of you can download it and use it. So the main oscillator here is the main VCO from Surge. Again, everything here is in stereo. I used also 2 pulse oscillators from Bog Audio as the sub oscillators. There's a mixer to mix them, a filter, there are envelopes, and there is also a delay just like on the Stylophone. There is also a small patch bay here. I'm using, in my case, the keystep, the MIDI keyboard, to play this voice, but you can just connect anything else, as a sequencer, for example, to the volt per octave, to the pitch, and to the gate. Right, so let's go through this. This is how it will sound like. Right, without changing anything. And this is basically the interface that all you have to do is zoom in on this interface. You don't have to look at the other modules at all. Everything, you have control over everything here on this interface. Right, so if we go for a second here, I hope I can show you this. There are the buttons that I used also before. Here there are 3 buttons. There is one for pulse width, one for an octave down, one for 2 octaves down. Right, so if, no, I cannot play this because it's not connected, but I can show you this here. Right, so I can add pulse width with this button here. Right, this will also turn it into a stereo voice. I can add sub oscillator 1, sub oscillator 2. Right, so you have buttons. Right, that you can enhance this. Right, there is also a vibrato that we can add. Right, with the rate and the depth. And also the different waves. So there's the pulse wave and the sine wave. Right, also here we have on the Stylophone, I hope you can see this, we have 2 waves. right, that we can change between, right? So we can add also vibrato, and also here there is the envelope. So in the envelope on the Stylophone, you will see it will go, by default, it will go to the filter, but you can also add it to the pitch. So here it's exactly the same. If I close the filter a bit, right, I can add this. Right, so I can add this to the filter, but I can also add this to the pitch. Which can be quite funny, but it can be also quite useful. Right, and again, if we go back to the filter, so we have the cutoff. Right, we have the resonance. And in this case, I added also drive. Right, so you can add also drive if you want. And also here we have the delay, and in this case the delay is stereo, so I can add delay. I can add feedback. I can change the time globally. But I can also change it separately for the left and for the right. Right? So this is more or less the setup. Again, it's very similar to the Stylophone, just a bit enhanced with stereo and with a drive for the filter as well. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will go experiment with your instruments and synthesizers. Have fun.